guys, welcome to Live the African Dream. My name is Blessing Iyamadiken, and I am the head of platform at Agent Capital. And with me, I have here Kevin Fomengia. I hope I got the pronunciation well.
Yes, it is. It's so easy to pronounce the last name.
So, Kevin is the founder of Bridge Labs, a software development firm in Africa, and the co founder of Pathway O's, an opportunity zone management company where he supports entrepreneurs and businesses. And Bridge Labs has an ecosystem of about 100 African software engineers, and he is passionate about developing Africa's tech talent. And he believes that Africa's developers will lead the next wave of building tech solutions. I'm so happy to have you on this show. Thank you for joining us, Kevin.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to just talk about Africans and just different regions across the world.
Sure, anytime. So I want to let's dive right in. Just tell me like a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to start Bridge Labs.
Yeah, so I've been building tech products for over 10 years. And it all started when I was a student at the University of Maryland. I co-founded actually a delivery service application before DoorDash and Uber Eats. And it started when a couple of my friends said, I'm so tired of waiting in lines to order Chipotle. I wish we can just have an application, we could just send the order in and everything could be streamlined. And we said, why don't we just build it ourselves? Right? So we went ahead and we built an app that allows student delivery drivers to pick up like Chipotle for other students. That got really big on campus, and I always remember a professor called my phone. It was like, "Are you Kevin Fomengia, co-founder of CCC?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, people are talking about your application. You got to join this class. So you need to drop two of your classes. You need to join this startup founder class at the business school." And I just joined, and that's when I realized what I was doing when it comes to product development, managing cash flow, building out the whole entire back end. I was actually doing things that startup founders actually do, but I was just solving problems.
Yeah.
So that allowed me to essentially really understand like the methods of growing a business, right? So, but then afterwards, I read the 1965 Act, right, of the civil rights that enable Africans to actually come to this country, right? It removed the quota. And it actually hit me hard, saying that, wait, my parents actually immigrated to the States from Cameroon in the late 70s. They got student visas to attend Howard University. I'm actually a product of that law that got passed. But I didn't know anything about the deep South, Mississippi. I didn't know anything about Alabama. But who am I as a second generation having all these skill sets? But I didn't know really anything as I like to call it by like my distant cousins that's down south. So I said I want to live down south. Everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone thought I was insane. It was like, so you're going to leave University of Maryland after you graduate to live in Mississippi? I said, yes. This is going to be very exciting. So that's what I did. I went to live in Greenville, Mississippi for 2 years. And that's when I learned a lot about food deserts, bank deserts, healthcare deserts, understanding all these ecosystems, right? And I was like, wait, how can we leverage technology to actually bridge some of the gaps? So that's what I did. I started working with a lot of different institutions, such as like the Mississippi State Valley, different credit unions, working on different fintech products. I was like very hands on. However, I reached a glass ceiling working in Mississippi. So I said, hey, I want to go to Los Angeles because I always wanted to live by the beach, right? It was just a passion of mine. So I moved to Los Angeles and I was still doing ed tech product. And something occurred to me when I was working on several products that I was so tired of waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning every single time when we have to interact with our Indian developers. For me, it didn't make sense. And I was like, all the knowledge that I have gained over like the past several years in college, also working in Mississippi, real time collaboration is everything. So, and I remember, I used to talk to my aunties, my uncles in Cameroon when it was 9 a.m. on the East Coast and it was only 2 p.m. over there. Why are we not accessing African developers? It just
Hmm.
or it just didn't occur to me like why are we always outsourcing to India and that the whole time zone and that impacts real time collaboration like the product development. So I was searching very hard in the US to find a firm that actually outsourced to Africa. I didn't find anything. So, like any entrepreneur, what do? You go build it yourself. So I traveled to Cameroon. I traveled to Cameroon because you cannot tell me this continent has over 1.3 billion people. Cameroon alone has over 20 million people. There's talent here. You cannot tell me there's not talent. So when I traveled to Cameroon, I realized it's an operation problem. It's all operations. How do you manage payments? How do you manage HR services? How do you vet strategically? So all this is exactly what I have built over the years. I'm like, I can solve this. Like I've already done that. So I spent about the entire year making sure that we're compliant in over 45 countries, and we have a very strenuous vetting process that less than 2% of African developers and data scientists actually pass through. And now we work with several U.S. companies to show them you have an untapped talent pool that works on your business hours, and we manage the payments, we manage everything, so it's a lot beneficial for them.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned this because that's the exact same problem that led Eunice to start investing in Africa also because like she was building her tech in Africa as Eunice Ajima, founding partner. She was building her tech in America and then realized that, oh my God, like how do we even pay the developers that we hire from Africa? And so that was like, like an issue that she just felt like, okay, you know what, this has to be solved and I'm going to go all out and solve it. And that was actually what led to the birth of Agile Capital. So it's really interesting that you mentioned that. Going back to what I was saying, my next question would probably be, what has been the most challenging like problem, challenging part of being of being a founder, solving an African problem, and in tech basically.
It's it's education. We need to
Mm,
educate the American population.
okay.
Overall, um, not only that just African Americans, we struggle when it comes to accessing capital, proving ourselves. Now you talk about Africa. So you really need to educate a lot of people. Like the questions that I hear from senior level and leadership when I say, hey, all my talent is in Africa, they say, wait, where do they work? What's their education? Do they have electricity? Now, all these questions. Let's say, do you not know some of these cities have over, a million people? They have, fiber optic cable. We're
I
not,
can relate.
yeah, so, but yeah, but that comes with, oh, we just need to educate. But this is why every single time I make sure when they interview one of our talent has a video on, they come prepared. It just
Hmm.
changes them. We are changing the narrative of Africa. That's the purpose of our mission. Because when we are educating America, especially a lot of like the decision makers, it changes them. It changes like the mentality of how they view Africa. I don't have the same issue when I'm talking with European clients. I don't have the same issue when I'm talking to Middle Eastern clients because they get it already. But so that has been like the biggest challenge of just educating, getting over. like trying to debunk some of the myths that hovers around Africa.
I think what you said is very, very interesting because it even affected me like when I first moved to the UK. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, where do you come from?" And I'm like, "I come from Nigeria." And they're like, "Oh, well, you speak really good English." I'm like, "Bro,
Right?
English is all I've spoken all my life. What do you
Mhm.
mean I speak really good English?"
Exactly,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, like, so I think I would ask you next, how do you see technology impacting the African economy and development? Especially since you're a very big part of that.
Yes, yes. So I guess it's so interesting that the way Africa is developing so quickly. A lot of people like to compare African countries with already developed countries. If you actually look at it, a lot of our parents were alive when some of these African countries gained their independence, right? So
Yeah.
in the 50s and 60s, if you look at it comparatively, when America gained their independence, Great Britain came back in war in 1812, right? It took America over 80, 70 years to actually get so developed, right? But so if you look at it comparatively, Africa is moving so quickly, is growing on tremendously because there are over what 400 million people that's younger than 19 years old. So it's a very young continent. So as we improve our digital infrastructure, when we improve our digital infrastructure, that allows trade to happen a lot more. That allows payments to be streamlined. That allows e-commerce to be streamlined as well. WhatsApp is probably one of the greatest achievements that actually happened to Africa, and we still haven't truly understand the significance of WhatsApp because what back in the day, I used to have to go to the gas station to purchase one of those phone cards to actually call. But now
Yeah.
you just send a video. Now I'm able to have a conversation. That streamlining that communication process is actually helping things out a lot more, right? So I think one of the huge tech developments that I'm getting really excited about is when people start to figure out how do we fix or how do we improve the postal system, right? Because that is a real headache when it comes to logistics and supply chain management, right? There should be no reason why if I need to send a medical device or I need to send goods and services, I should be able to send to your address. I shouldn't be able to for someone had to go to a third party site or a different location. That really impacts supply chain. Right. So and then also that impacts when it comes to other means of businesses. So I do believe that as we continue to improve some of these sectors, mainly logistics and the digital infrastructure, is going to open up a lot more foreign investments because a lot of people, even in the States and Europe, they want to send goods to Africa. They want to do business, but
Yeah.
it's the infrastructure not there yet. But we are improving, and there's so many great founders, so many great startups that are seeing this and bringing great solutions.
Yeah. And so like from this question, I can see that you have like such great hopes for Africa's tech in the next couple of years. And so that leads me to my question about where you see Africa's tech evolving in, let's say, the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years. What's your hope for Africa's tech ecosystem?
Yeah, so my hope is we are going to see um, a lot of the port cities, such as Lagos, Accra, as well as Douala, Cameroon, Monrovia, Liberia. It's those port cities, Cape Town too. We are going to see them develop a lot more, right? And as they continue to develop, those port cities is going to attract a lot of the diaspora, because now, like I said, we have the technology, we have the products. Now we can send money easily. Now we can actually invest in some of these workspaces, and now as more people start to actually have that and buying power, we now people are sending money back home to invest. So in the next 10 to 15 years, I'm very optimistic. We're going to see a lot more unicorns. I'm very optimistic that we are going to see some cities just booming. And then also I'm so optimistic that I want to see some, and Kenya is doing a great job of when it comes to understanding space, understanding how to actually get ahead of the game, leveraging AI, leveraging machine learning. Because yes, we have some of these pressing matters when it comes to clean water initiative, making sure that malaria is tackled when it comes to other health services. However, I believe we can tackle so many things at once. Like we are very multifaceted as a people. And then the diaspora has so much buying power that imagine, yes, you live in America or you live in Britain, and there may be a glass ceiling when it comes to your consumers. But how you thought about Africa? How you thought about actually opening businesses in Africa that might be a lot more receptive to you? Apple, Apple, McDonald's, all those major corporations, they didn't become a $1 billion company only being in America. They
Yeah.
expanded to other countries. We can go anywhere in the world and we can find someone that look like us. We can go to Mexico. We can go to Guatemala. We can go to Peru. We can go to China. Let's use that as our advantage. Let's lean into our strengths to actually build this global economy. And I think Africa is a great place to start where we can actually have that trade.
Right. And I think I want to pick your brain over like two random discussions that have taken over social media in this past couple of days. And the first one is the fact that we keep saying Africa has like a young population, a really young population, and we see that as an advantage. But however, there are people, or should I say critics, who say that it's not exactly an advantage because you need that young population to actually grow. You need infrastructure for them to actually learn and develop themselves into people that can actually add value to the society. What's your take on that?
So I do believe that is valid. Like there is never an absolute answer. There's never a black or white answer. So that is very valid. That because it has a young population, what that means, you need jobs. You need jobs, right? Hence why
Yeah,
Bridge Labs, we say, hey, let's take advantage. This provide them with jobs, right? This open the market, but that also means that because it's a young population, that energy, and we're seeing happening right now in West Africa. But what's happening when it comes to a lot of these crises? Because it's that energy, it's that young population getting tired of the existing establishments that's happening, right?
yeah,
And we are going to start seeing a lot more of that because of the awareness that's happening. So we need more jobs. We actually need to invest in the middle class because we know that as the middle class grows in any economy, that is a sign of a healthy country.
yeah,
As of right now, the middle class provide jobs. And we can use the same recipe as America. The small businesses provide the most jobs. So as Ghana, South Africa, Nigeria, Rwanda, Kenya, as they start to grow, we need to be investing in the middle class, investing in these businesses homegrown so they can provide jobs to the youth. So I believe if we don't invest in the middle class, we are going to see just this wide gap of people who have a lot of money and the youth with no job, but we need to invest in the entrepreneurs. We need to invest in people so they can provide local jobs.
Yeah, and I think it's also at the beginning of this interview, you mentioned something about infrastructure development in Africa. And I want to, the second thing that, that has been a really popular discourse in recent times is the fact that on one hand, we say that tech is going to lift Africa out of poverty, increase the GDP of Africa, is going to skyrocket our earnings in Africa and make Africa a better place generally. On the other hand, tech as an idea is actually supposed to even reduce the amount. I don't know if you can find to like reduce the amount of people it takes to do a certain thing. Do you understand? It's like supposed to make it asset light. When it comes to things like even with regards to let's say AI, there's a lot of conversation about how AI is taking people out of jobs. So not necessarily like creating jobs as long as you know how to use the AI. So so on that other hand, people are tech is going obviously displace a couple of things and all of that. Where do you see that? I feel like it's a conundrum. What's your thought on that?
Well, so I think that's a really good point. I do believe when you talk about the infrastructure in Africa and different countries, I think it's we need to have a physical infrastructure in order to enable a lot of this digital infrastructure. What this means is we need to invest in creating established roads. We need to invest in when it comes to the electricity. We need to invest in when it comes to creating these dams to generate electricity. All that creates jobs. All of that. So it can really happen all at once. I'm never in this narrative of we are taking away AI, ML is this technology taking away jobs. No, I believe it's going to enable a lot more of these physical infrastructure that needs to be done in Africa, such as great. Now we have this terrain, this rural area, these villages. Now we can use drones to understand how to build these roads, and that's using tech. Now we have this large construction company that's able to employ hundreds of people that's creating these highways. So I do believe the technology will enable to create jobs for some of these infrastructure to enable a lot of these economic development.
Right. I think that's a very great way to put it. It's just like a way of marrying tech with infrastructure, and that way nobody gets left behind. And that's the whole point of everything, so that we don't leave anybody behind. And I
Yes.
think so. My final question to you is going to be, what's your version of the African dream? You know how like we always there's an American dream, there's an
Yeah.
European dream, I guess. What's
Mhm.
your own version of the African dream?
So my own version of the African dream is I really believe in trade. I want someone who lives in Zimbabwe. They can easily go to Chad without any restriction, right? Let's remove these barriers, of traveling across our different African countries, just like as the EU has it, to remove the barriers. My dream is to allow Africa to remove some of these migration barriers that prevent trade, that prevent some of the people that now you can business owners, other people can easily. If I'm in Cameroon and I want to go to school in Sierra Leone, I should be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Without having to go through all these hiccups. So that's what
Yeah.
I see, because if we are able to do that, we are going to unlock like this economic giant in the world, because that's going to allow the diaspora, that's in the States, that's in Brazil, that's in the Caribbeans, that's in Europe to now freely come into Africa, right? There should be no reason why, and a lot of people, you know, like benefit from this. Like for me, yes, I'm an American citizen. I was born and raised right outside DC. I can go to Cameroon, and sometimes I can have more benefits than a Cameroonian, right? So if I really didn't believe in my people, I would exploit that 100%. But because I believe in us, let's leverage some of these strengths to actually help. But Cameroonians and Cameroon should have a lot more benefits, right? How
Yeah.
navigate. So my like just going back to my dream is I just want to remove the barriers of trade and allow people to easily migrate to different countries in Africa.
Yeah. I totally agree with you on that one because I mean, one time I was supposed to go from Lagos to Kenya, and the flight prices were just like through the roof. I was like, why? Because
Mm,
and it was and we pay so much to move. You have to apply for a visa. You have to apply for after applying for a visa, then you buy like tickets that
mm,
cost like really outrageous sums. Meanwhile, somebody in the UK can easily just get into France with less
yeah.
than £100, and so it just makes you ask questions with regards to, are we even ready for this change or this development that we're seeking? Because if we're not taking steps to it, then how, what exactly is our, what exactly is our plan?
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and and I love that because I believe that the hardest problems to solve is going to reap the most rewards. So I'm
yeah,
glad that we are having these conversations, and we shouldn't
yeah,
be afraid of conflict. We should lean into the conflict. We should lean into figure out these solutions because someone's
yeah.
going to say, you know what? The reason why it costs so high because maybe there's not a pit stop in Chad. Maybe we need to build an airport somewhere in Chad to help out with the logistics. That's why it costs so much, right? But because we're thinking about this now and we are experiencing it, it's going to happen, right? So I'm very optimistic that the more we are having these pain points, just like I had this pain point waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It didn't make any sense for me. And I was like, hey, they just built this HR service to enable Africans to work for US companies. I think the same thing is going to happen when it comes to traveling. Someone go say, enough is enough. This is gonna be a great solution. And boom, just like that. That person is gonna be a unicorn because everyone's experiencing it.
Amen to that. Thank you
Yes.
so much for joining and
Thank
coming
you.
on this podcast. It's been an amazing time. I really enjoyed our conversation. And so, thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much for having me, and likewise. You have a blessed one.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye bye.